I felt that like that's exactly what entrepreneurs said, meant by what they said, that it's very lonely road, because you don't really have time for personal friendships and connections and going out all the time partying, so you do make those sacrifices. What no other studio has now is privacy, where everyone be very, very comfortable getting tattooed there. Where I see other studios and everyone's working so close to each other. I would be very uncomfortable getting naked in front of some.
I'm multiple people.
Yeah. One of my clients who came in and got that tattoo on her. It was Benny Beauty AMAVI. I was whoa, what does that mean? And then she was yeah, do everything with love. And I was again, that's all love. I was do you mind if I call my studio this? Yeah, cool. Welcome back to AMAVI podcast. Sometimes I like to start off with a quote. Might be a continuous saying, who knows? But sometimes your lowest moment is the start of your next chapter, but it doesn't feel like it at the time. So last time we talked about how I just left my previous studio, how I started fresh in the barbershop and had built real momentum for the first time. But then, dun dun dun, COVID hit. This episode's about survival, mentally, financially, and emotionally. So let's get into lockdowns. Maddie, do you remember that?
Remember them.
Yeah.
They were not fun.
Yeah. No, we were still talking a lot back then, and I think we were just leaning on each other for a bit of support. I know you were one of my only friends back then, because I started shutting myself off, a lot, and wasn't really going out, partying or anything anymore. I did that pre-COVID because I knew that I needed to focus all my time on tattooing and building and growing, my portfolio, growing my finances as well to fund this studio.
You fully committed yourself. You fully committed yourself into the
exactly
grind.
So the way I sort of seen, not gonna lie, I think I'm slightly autistic when it comes to things like this, but basically I sort of seen it as human connection as not an inconvenience but a distraction, because you feel bad when people invite you out and stuff like that, and you're oh, I can't because I need to be staying focused on what's at stake. I need to be moving forward. And, I felt that that's exactly what entrepreneurs said, meant by what they said, that it's a very lonely road, because you don't really have time for personal, friendships and, connections and going out all the time and partying. So you do make those sacrifices. So I knew I had to make that sacrifice to get to where I wanted to be, And then as soon as I did that, literally the government came out and was hey, so there's a new virus coming out and we don't know what's going to happen, so stay tuned, Mm-hmm. And they started giving a bit of advice on it and stuff like that, and I was oh, whatever, I didn't bat an eye. And then at the time it was
didn't bat an eye?
Oh, bats. What a happy accent. Or a sad accent, I suppose. COVID was messed up.
It was bad. It was really bad.
What was crazy though was I was already on my journey, saving up and stuff. So I was already looking around buildings and stuff. I came very close to opening up in Drumore.
Yes, I actually remember that.
Yeah, were you with me when we looked at it?
I don't think I was able to come with you the day you looked at it, but you said you'd give me a call after and kind of talk me through.
Oh yeah,
kind of what it was.
Dude, I was telling you the whole thing.
Everything.
Yeah. It was just too much. It was too big. Oh wow, if I took on that would have been game over.
It was
I know.
a very, very big building.
Yeah, and it had a bank vault in it and stuff It was an old bank. It was crazy. It was so.
It was cool.
Yeah.
It was so good. Yeah, because you were saying you could be I could put my studio in the vault. The vault.
Yeah, but then oh no, that's too much, man. It's not me. Now it would have been such a big mistake. You know, I don't want to do that. But yeah, and then to phone me up and like, look, you know, we know of another friend of ours has a shop in Banbridge, if you want to have a look at it. So I looked at it, and it was old kind of retail property, and I was like, yeah, this is perfect, you know.
It was well situated as well on the high street.
Yeah. So I got in touch with the landlord and we started negotiating the contract, and then we had to get in touch with solicitors. So commercial property solicitors, they just dragged on. It was like all the little things back and forth. His solicitor wasn't responding to mine wasn't responding to his. He was messaging me being like, oh, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know, we're trying to get back word from your solicitor, what? You know, and then get an email. Like, see, like, this virus is starting to get a bit serious. We don't know what's going to happen here. Are you sure you want to carry on with this lease? I was like, hell yeah, what's the worst that can happen? Yeah, absolutely. Not me not having the funds to do anything with it at that time, right? But I was like, yeah, let's do it, you know. And then, you know, started get in touch with like builders and see if they can come out and you know price it up, and got quoted around 20,000. So I had a figure, I had the contract starting to get in place. I was like, right, I can aim for that. That's doable. That's manageable. I can do like 10,000 on top of that, you know, for equipment, and then that'll be it. The whole shop finished. But young, dumb, stupid, man. That's not what went down. It was horrible. Came out lockdown. That was it. You're not allowed to work. If you work, you get fined, and you also might get a criminal record. That was the part that really scared me.
Like that is insane for someone, especially in your line of work.
In that position as well, like where I put myself, like everything was aligned perfectly, and it was just like a rope, like a giant,
just like a slap.
Yeah, a giant wall of bricks just landed in front of me. I was like, what is going to happen? So I was like, what am I going to do here? So everyone was talking about crypto at the time, right? And that was when things just escalated. I you know, started doing a bit of research into it, you know, but it was pre-COVID, you know, like whenever I started doing somebody, I asked, you know, told them, I was like, I was been looking into crypto and stuff, and they're like, well, I'll put you through to my partner because he's really big into crypto. And I was like, wow, awesome. So he came in and had a chat with me about it, and he was like, yeah, sure, take my number, give me a call sometime. I was like, awesome. So over COVID, and that's what I did, give him a wee call. But yeah, no, that was. Before we get into that, Maddie, you know, I want to ask you, it's like, how was like around that time for you? You know, like COVID was just insane.
It was bad. I can actually remember being quite scared myself. Like all the media was putting up like this disease is dangerous. It can kill you. You can't like see your family. I didn't see my grandparents for months. I want to say I've just been afraid of, you know, going in and giving it to them.
Yeah.
And I was out of work at that time because...
No, I remember that. Yeah. You were playing World of Warcraft a lot.
That's all I played.
Did you not get into like a top 10 or something?
No, that was Hearthstone.
Oh, okay.
Hearthstone. I got really into Hearthstone.
Okay, I mean, listen, you've got an excuse. It was during COVID, but like World of Warcraft and Hearthstone, like you're going down a dangerous path. You know, that's only one step. That's one step away from 4chan.
I got locked in for months, and even after the lockdown restrictions were lifted, I was still sucked in.
Yeah.
It took months for me to actually get myself out.
Yeah.
Back to working again, essentially.
It was a weird transition because then you're like, right, you have to stay in your house, you have to do this, and then coming out to work again, you're like, you don't know what to expect. What if you get sick? What if you... like all these like what ifs.
That's they were still saying you still have to have precautions.
Exactly, yeah. So I was like starting to overthink or like everything. My mind was all over the place, and especially with like, how am I going to fund this? You know, especially when the time comes to pay for everything. So after getting in touch with you know, that guy, all right, okay, you know, I'll just show you, you know, sign up to Discord, and we started talking a lot. He was like showing me things, and you know, once lockdown's lifted, I went over to his house and he started showing me even more. But it's a weird scenario. I had about like 10,000 sort of saved, or maybe less. I couldn't sit back and do nothing, or else I would just collapse, you know. And that was it. Like basically in crypto, I had about, you know, the money saved up. I invested about £100, started going up. £200 started going up even further. So I was like, okay, let's crank it up a bit. £1,000, 3, 4, 5. I ended up investing 8,500. And I was seeing everything go up in real time. This was around the time everyone was getting on it into crypto, and things were blowing up.
But you managed to jump on it
At the perfect
before it
time,
was starting to
exactly.
shoot
Yeah,
up.
I got in like last minute before it really blew up, and I personally didn't really know what I was doing. This is financial advice. No way would I recommend anyone actually do this. Definitely speak to a financial advisor and do your own research before doing this.
Yeah, just a disclaimer: crypto is comparable, pretty much the same as going into a casino
Yeah.
and putting everything on Reddit.
There's a lot of luck on it, you know.
Did you won big?
Yeah, so from 8,500, I made 75,000.
You what?
Yeah, that was messed up. I couldn't believe it myself. Yeah, and then the bank actually phoned me. They were like, "Where are you getting this money from?" And I was like, "Oh, crypto." I was like, "Yeah, we're gonna have to actually stop." I'm like, what? It's like, it's just to protect you. I was like, what do you mean? It's like, yeah, you just need to stop doing crypto. I was like, oh. But like, this is my only source of income right now, and you understand? If I stop, then where am I going to get money from? You know, and then they're like, look, I'm sorry, I've just been told to phone everyone and tell them to stop trading with Coinbase. I was like, are you serious? What? So the one source of income I had over lockdown is I was being told not to do. I was like, okay, this is crazy. But it was working, so like, I don't understand the problem. So I switched banks. I just kept doing it.
Like, if you will let me do it, I'll get a new guy.
Exactly, yeah, so that's exactly what I did. And I just carried on. But at the same time, I'm an introvert. I don't really go out much, and sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I'm not an introvert, I'm an ambivert. You know, sometimes I like going out and seeing people and stuff like that, but most of the time I like to stay indoors.
Stay in, recharge.
So whenever I was told you have to stay indoors, that was my time to shine. I was like, I was getting up to all sorts of things. Like, for example, t-shirt making. So I was like, let's start creating plans over, you know, lockdown for the studio. I want to do like a coffee shop entrance, tattoo studio, or beauticians, barbers, you know, combine all different services together as a lifestyle brand, and all held together with like clothing.
Under one brand.
Yeah. And then this is kind of like the ghetto sort of setup that I had done. I'd done like loads of research into it, trying to make it work. My downfall was doing it while I was in my own house. Everything became just like hoarding. You know, it was like, okay, this isn't actually going to work. Everything's all over the place. You know, but I got very close to it. You know, and I was like, right, I'll revisit this. I know exactly what I'm going to do with it. I know how to make the setup work. I'm just going to put it on the back burner until the time is right. And you know, the rest of my time I kind of done a bit of tattooing in the house on latex, because I was not gonna do that on people, right? But I really want to tattoo latex because I haven't tattooed latex in a very long time. So I was like, this is my chance to do like one of those linen things, you know? So I got a hand and done like the rose that you see on the screen right now. But yeah, and then coming out of lockdown, right, I was like,
scary time, everything was changing. You had to bring in regulations for your business.
yeah, so it was just I was just sweating buckets, man, you know. This is like my mom even made like a wee hat for me, a wee mask. It was like a Alexi tattoo on it. I was like, yeah, this is on brand.
That is so cool.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. So I was like wearing that and like, you know, tattooing people, and you know, I was sweating, man, you know. I went from tattooing with no mask and, you know, to like chopping my dreads off, remember?
Oh, your dreads.
Oh yeah, I went bald, completely bald. There's no photo or anything in existence, and never will be.
I think the consensus is that I was the right decision.
Yeah.
Leaving White Boy Summer was probably your glow up.
You should never get that hair back now.
Oh no.
I don't think
it's went
you'd
back
want
too much.
to get the dreads back though. I don't think you'd want to get the dreads back.
It was too warm at times, and it was too heavy, and sleeping with them was no.
But you sweated through it all.
Yeah.
You kept going.
But there were other sort of challenges, you know, like leaks.
So we have a leak
Oh no.
right next to a £3,000 autoclave.
Yeah. the leak was like running down the walls and everything. It was like, oh wow, great. That's exactly what you want. Coming out of lockdown, coming into your studio C, it wasn't. It just wasn't great. But yeah, no, I was like sweating so much that like you know when you go swim or like in water for too long, your hands.
Oh,
go
you had
like,
to go like wrinkly.
Yeah, that was me under like my gloves because like my whole body was just.
Like that's actually something I want to ask. Like tattooing in what was it essentially like full gloves, mask.
I mean, you still wear gloves all the time.
With the
Yeah.
gloves, yeah, but with the mask. Because I actually remember whenever I got back to work, we always had to wear the masks.
Mhm.
At the time, I was moving furniture about,
Yeah.
and it was heavy lifting, and I remember it was almost
Yeah.
hard to breathe.
Yeah,
through it.
exactly. No, it's,
I couldn't imagine sitting down for like hours.
yeah. The sweat was like dripping from my
Oh my
beard
gosh.
and everything, like down my like, you know, like it was pretty terrible. Not like drastically,
Yeah,
but
bad,
I seen how like
uncomfortable.
condensation building. You know, it's like what's going on.
It's definitely not nice to work like that.
And because I shaved my head, I was self-conscious about my bald head. You know, like so I was wearing a hat on top of that too. Yeah, so yeah, it wasn't good. But yeah, we'll not dwell on a lockdown too much because like everyone, you know, was going through stuff at the time. But coming out of the first lockdown, word started getting around the time that like I was going to open my own studio. So I was approached by like a local cafe owner messaged me for his business page like, hey, here you're opening up, let's go for a chat. I was like, okay, this is weird. I only met the fellow once and no, a couple of times actually. And then, you know, I was like, well, what's up? And he's like, you know, I don't know what's going on, you know, with like COVID and stuff. I don't know how long it's going to last. Cafe was starting to become like less profitable anyway. I was thinking like if you want to set up upstairs, I was like, I'm already working a deal with a contract, you know, with a solicitor to sign a contract on the property. Fortunately, I can't. He's like, okay, well, you know, do you? I might just close this shop, you know, like close the cafe anyway, or like sell it off or whatever. Do you have anything available? And I was like, I would love a cafe at the front of the shop. And he's like, don't do it. It's not profitable. I was like, I'm gonna prove you wrong. You know, like that was my mindset.
Hindsight.
Yeah, hindsight. And then I was like, right, okay. Well, how about you do like reception because I'll need a receptionist either way. And I was like, no, that's not gonna work. I don't want to do anything like that. People sort of related. And I was like, well, tattooing is like already out of question. He's like, yeah. I was like, well, the industry is crying out for a professional piercer, and we need a full-time piercer whenever we open up. I was like, that might be something I could do. Let me look into it, and we'll stay in touch. I was like, right, okay, cool, sounds good. And it was like very promising, and we say positive. And he started like, but yeah, so he started like looking into it, started messaging me about like logos and stuff like that, you know, a bit of advice here and there and stuff like that. I was like, wow, okay, this is awesome. Yeah, absolutely, I'm going to help you because you're going to help me. Why not? It's going to be a partnership. So I was like, cool, sounds good. And then basically I was like, right, he trained up, cool, used me as practice on a couple of ear piercings and stuff, just trust him with that. And then he was confident to start professionally. It's like, okay, cool, I'll speak to the barber that I'm with and see if you can come in with me. That's exactly what we did. He was like, yeah, that's fine, but I want rent from him. I was like, well, I will only be at this like a few months. He's going to obviously play hardball because obviously I'm going to get a payout at the end of this because he's going to come in full time. So like, right, okay. So my paying is still full my rent. It's like, yeah, because I don't have anything, you know, to gain from this. I was like, right, okay, you know, fine, you know, sacrifice half my space. You know, this room was small enough anyway, for him to come in to pay him more rent. So like I got screwed over with that, you know. But that was like when like cracks started to show with me and the barber. So I was like, right, the sooner I can get her out of there, the better, you know. So I was like, right. And Adam, where are we?
And that's when the second wave hit.
Oh yeah.
The second wave.
Yeah, the second wave. Yeah, I was overworking myself, you know, because I didn't know how long we had before the next lockdown or whether it was going to come at all. Yeah, so I was still like, what if crypto doesn't work out long term? You know, what if like there's massive class, blah blah blah. What if the bank refuses to, you know? So like, there's so many different like what ifs. I was still like, right, I'm gonna throw everything I have at this, right? So I started like overworking myself a bit, tattooing a bit too much, and I needed a break, you know, before and that break came, you know, like literally whenever I needed it. It was like, boom, lockdown, you can't work. I was like, say no more. Say no more. Yeah. So I was forced to like reset, which is great. Meanwhile, the studio plans were starting to like become a thing, you know. Started signing a lease, 3 months free rent. That was awesome.
Yeah.
That gave me a bit of breathing room.
Yeah.
Because imagine paying rent for 2 places while the studio renovations
Still
were
not
going to
even
happen.
done. You're not making the money.
Dude, yeah. So coming out of the like the second lockdown, again, just working hard, trying to get everything sorted, blah blah. Third lockdown hit, or like was coming up. I was like, I can't do this third lockdown by myself in a single apartment. This was it. I'm gonna have to move in with my parents. Because I was like struggling mentally at the time as well, because like obviously staring down the barrel of all of what was to come, I knew how difficult it was going to be. Pressure building in the barbershop to move out of there as soon as possible, and on top of that, the pressure with living in the in family house again, all those memories growing up and not the environment I was put back in, it was just like, no, this is crazy. The stepdad, to I asked him for a bit of advice, started taking it upon himself to get me through the journey. He started giving his own criticism on things, but it wasn't constructive. It was like, oh, this is stupid, that's stupid, who designed this?
It was just like attacking you.
Exactly.
Instead of...
Yeah, and I was like, dude, this isn't helpful. You're not helping. You're just wasting time complaining and beating me down, and I'm not getting anywhere with it. I felt like breaking down, and like this is like, I don't know what to do. Like, my head's fucking gone. I felt like everything was going to be over, and I signed a contract already for 3 years. I had no option to make it work. So we were clashing. It was it was horrible. But in hindsight, like, not in hindsight, but he did teach me how to drive again.
He was trying to help you out.
Yeah, but it was just different generations. He was trying, but it didn't translate well.
It was a bit more like tougher kind of.
Yeah, and I didn't see that at the time. It's just immaturity met with not tough love, but just like his way of teaching, and it just.
How much pressure you were under as well.
Yeah, it was immense. So like we ended up clashing so much that I was like left with no option but to actually like move out. But the only place I could go to was my stepbrother's granny's house, which is the other end of Drumore. So I moved in with her for a few months until like the whole translation happened. I could move to Banbridge, into this. Into the house. Yeah. But yeah, no, I'll show you a little clip from like the home life. So the ghetto kind of the apparel setup I had, the screen print setup in my previous flat. So it was like I needed somewhere to set it up. So I thought like, hey, with the stepdad, like, why don't we build a shed? Right, we started building a shed out the back. Then I bought a metal one, spent I think it was like £800 on it. I don't know why it was so cheap though for the size of it, because we needed something huge, right? Started building it, got the walls up and stuff like that, and it blew away.
Oh my god.
Yeah, because like I was tattooing still in Lurgan, right? I was tattooing, and he gives me a call and he's like, you better get up here quick because the winds are picking up. And if we built like everything else, with the shed, if we got it finished the night before, it wouldn't have blown away, but it did. All the metal was bent, screws were loose and gone. I was
completely ruined.
Yeah, I was like, right, that fumbles my plan, and I'm not going to go through the whole effort again of paying for stuff like that to set it up, and it was just too much. So I was like, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad that happened, because I wouldn't have been able to do anything with that for a long time. So so it would have just been sitting there.
Not doing anything.
Yeah, and we needed electric in there and stuff as well. So how were we going to do that? It would have been fire hazard and everything. So it was like no way.
There's no way it was working from the start.
Yeah, so I'm glad it worked out. Like the way it did.
I'm glad it worked out by not working out.
Yeah.
It was almost like a sign.
Yeah, it was a sign. So, that's a cryptograph. There we go.
You find it. There it is.
But at the same time, like whenever I was living with it, I was still doing crypto, but it wasn't doing nowhere near as well. It was like going like sideways, like it wasn't going anywhere.
It just held.
Yeah, and then I seen a tip that was like, oh, here, crypto might drop. Be careful. I was like, it's fine. You know, like I'm like my like portfolio was so diverse into many different tokens and coins that it didn't really matter. Turns out it affected the whole market. You know, like it affected Bitcoin, Ethereum, smaller cap coins, everything. Everything dropped by 50%. And I think it was around the time China banned it for a brief time. It was like, oh no, we're not supporting crypto anymore. Boom! Everything, 50%. But I was already starting to cash out anyway, so I went from like 75 down to like less than 50, but then 50,000 to then half that to 25. Problem was, that was when building control started coming into play because through the architect, it was like, oh hey, just to let you know, because you're building the walls, because you're doing this and that, you're going to need building control approval, planning permission. So I had to go through that, which took forever. It took so long, but that was cool. Like that existed with the contract. So we weren't going to sign a contract until we got planning permission. So once we got planning permission, we signed a contract. Boom.
Good to go.
The workman, good to go. Yeah. But by the time that planning permission came through, I was still hoping it was going to be 20,000.
Hidden costs.
Everyone usually tells you like, oh, predict 25% for hidden costs. Yeah. Not after COVID. Everything tripled.
Oh no.
I paid over, I think 70,000, 80,000, 85. I think it was in around that ballpark figure. With rent on top of that, with rates on top of that, and I was burning through money very, very, very quick.
And was this all before like you even got in through the door to start?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Again, tensions were building in the barbershop. I was living in my stepbrother's granny's house, who I don't even know that well. And I was so grateful for her though. Like, she was lovely. Like, she was amazing. But anyway, and then I was driving from back and forth, from Lurgan to Banbridge to Drumore,
In like a triangle.
Yeah, and it came out, I wasn't that experienced, like in driving either. But that's my wee car beside my brother's car. Well, he's my stepbrother, but he's my brother. You know what I mean? Like, we're tight. But yeah, I thought that was an awesome photo. It was class. But I had to sell that car. Anyway, we'll touch on that.
So you were having a pretty rough time with the crypto crash and the bills coming in.
So around that time it was my brother that like really saved my ass. I was like, look bro, I need a loan. I need to get a loan out. I'm not eligible for a loan because I'm spending so much money on this studio. No one's going to trust me with it, but I know this could work. I'm so close. And he's like, right, leave it with me, I'll see what I can do. And then like the way he did it was just like the most magical, magnificent thing ever. I just like, he was looking at my phone, he's like, oh, check your bank. Looked at it, he got a £20,000 loan out for me. I was like, dude, what the hell? That's mad. Holy shit, Obviously, I was paying it off monthly then, bit by bit. That journey started then, and that kind of saved my ass. And everything was going well. Until planning permission. We're like, right, you're going to need like either ventilation or windows.
More hidden costs.
I was like, what do you mean? I thought this was everything. It's like, no, you're going to need like air into this. I was going back and forth with the solicitor, the architect. I was like, what are we doing? Like, how can we combat this? And he was like, nothing you can sort of do in that sense. You're going to have to either get windows or ventilation. I was like, right. Asked the neighbours for windows because I thought that was the cheapest option. The neighbours were like, no way are you putting windows in because it's going to be looking at my property, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, no windows. And then ventilation, 12 grand.
12 grand?
Yeah.
Just for ventilation?
Yeah. I was like, how is that even possible? I was like, that's insane. I thought it was just like a few rooms, like 8 rooms. 2 of them were bathrooms. One's a staff room, the rest of them were going to be like, beauticians, barbers, piercing room, sterilization room, and that was completed. So that was devastating. I was like, shit, but at the time I was speaking to an old friend of mine as well, and he wasn't really doing much. He, like with his life, and he's like, look, I'm sitting on all this money. I'd rather just like invest in it somewhere that like will grow. I was like, dude, why not? Because like I knew how busy I was with tattooing and how like things were going to work out, but like I knew it was going to work out either way. But he was taking a gamble on me as well. I was like, look, I don't know how this is going to work, but I'm going to do everything in my power to repay you if you do invest. And he was like, yeah, that's fine. Like, just take it, because like, I'm just going to waste it all. And I was like, oh, all right. That's insane. So if it wasn't for my friend at the time, and if it wasn't for my brother, I would have been bankrupt. That would have been it for me, because I was paying rent for 2 places and dishing out all that money for renovations.
Yeah, you needed that cash injection.
Yeah, so it was just getting worse and worse and worse every day, because I was driving back and forth, grinding out every day. And like, there was times I was getting in the car and I'm like, I'm not safe to drive. Like, my head was fucking spinning. I need to like sit there in the car for a bit. I'm like, you know, like, I was experiencing panic attacks at the time as well. I was like, how is this possible? You know, like, it shouldn't be this difficult.
And you came very close to kind of having to give up on the dream there.
Oh, 100%, yeah, very, very, very close. But I knew I couldn't, you know, because it would have been devastating. And then, again, I needed to prove this stepdad wrong, you know, because he was like, you can't do this, you're going to get yourself in so much debt, you can't recover from this. I'm like,
I'll show you.
Yeah. Something to prove to them.
Exactly, yeah. So I had something to prove, and I used that as motivation, but I also wanted to prove to myself I can do it, you know.
And of course, the rest is history now.
Well, kind of, yeah. Just want to talk about the tattooing aspect of it as well. It never got to that stage where I wasn't given every tattoo that I did 110%. There were moments where I was like, look, when I started a tattoo, and it was like, look, I don't know if I'm capable of giving you my 100%. So do you mind if we finish up here, and I'll get you in some other time, and just slot them in where I had a cancellation or whatever, you know. But I knew as a tattoo artist, it was still my duty to do my absolute best with every single tattoo I did, and I have receipts for that as well. I took a photo of every single tattoo I've ever did. I think I'm like 4,000 plus photo tattoos, but it's still like somewhere like a work in progress and stuff as well. But still, I was still loving it. You know, that was the one thing that kept steady. That was the one thing where I could disconnect from all the stress that I was being put under. You know, with everything, that was my escape, and it was from a very long time. I think that's what tattooing became for me. But it started to get a bit dangerous, where it was like an addiction, you know, where it's like, it's a weird thing to be addicted to, guys.
Yeah, tattooing.
Yeah.
Not even getting the tattoos, but tattooing.
Yeah, I was like, I loved it. Like, cause like every day was something different, you know. It was like, oh yeah, I get to be creative with this. I get to do this.
That's good though. If you love what you do.
Yeah. So it was just a perfect storm. It was that release in a weird way that I needed. I was still getting the satisfaction at the end, and I was like, yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I did that. That was good.
But I'm still a piece of shit. I'm not good enough.
still rolls back to that.
Yeah. Still rolls back to that mentality where you're not ever good enough. But anyway, I want to just guide you through some of the renovations of what happened. And I think we'll finish this episode shortly after that with the before and after video of the most recent video that Corin has done for me. Remember?
Oh, that has he got it done?
No, not yet. We thought he would be in time for like whenever we're finishing up today, just so we can show it right now. But unfortunately not. I'll send it to you guys. Send it to the group chat.
I'm excited to see it.
But yeah, that was like, he went away to like France. I was on my crazy journey. We kind of disconnected for a long time. The weirdest thing is, like, it wasn't until like very recently he came back from France and was like, hey, I'm back from France. Do you have any work going? Because I want to jump into stuff and another project. I was like, yeah, let's do it. Because you're coming in at the perfect time for this, right? So it's weird. All stars are finally aligning. But anyway, right, this is the before photos, okay? Let's get a wee bit of a gist with this. But yeah, this was like before I added the sign. Not a whole lot, but we had like wee bits at the entrance where like was displayed, because there's a retail store before I took it over. So yeah, like that was the inside of it. Sorry, Maddie, I'll spin it around more for you so you can see. Can you see it? Okay.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, so like it was all open plan. That was like when you come through the door, like the pillars where the current reception is, and that's where like the bench is. That's where the seating area is, and that's where going upstairs.
Yeah.
And then like all back end of it was just open plan again. It was just pillars. There's no walls, no nothing. There wasn't even the toilet in the property. That's what really confused me. was like, why is there?
I thought there would have had it been a toilet.
Yeah, it is a legal requirement, but they got away with it. I'll show you how in a second. But yeah, all open space. So I was like, yeah, this is awesome. And like looking back at it now, I probably should have designed the studio a wee bit different. You know, without the walls and stuff like that. Kept the money to like use it more strategically. You know, instead of walls and stuff. But what we have, what no other studio has now, is privacy, where like everyone feels very, very comfortable getting tattooed there. Where like I see other studios and everyone's like working so close to each other. Like I would be very uncomfortable getting naked in front of like some
multiple people.
Yeah, like that's like for me that's so like we became like a very good private kind of like studio in a way. But yeah, that's where the toilet was in the wee unit out the back. Yeah, so that was like the wee video of like the backyard and the unit going into unit. That's where we do the screen printing currently, and that's going into the studio.
There's a good bit of space back there as well.
Oh yeah. No, we do have plants there, and that's in the unit as well. Just kind of yeah.
It's just everything.
We used it as storage because there's just loads of space there, and we're like, right, okay, so that because we had to rip a lot of things out before we actually started work, which I didn't realize. Right, I didn't realize there was going to be so much things ripped out. So we had to put it somewhere. We put it in the unit. But while the works was happening, I was like, I'm signing a contract and stuff like that over a year. I didn't realize how bad the garden out the back got. Like, look at that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's a jungle out there. I was like, how do
it went crazy.
Yeah, that was a full year of just growth. After a year, that's mad. So,
My garden.
It is your garden.
and then we had like we changing rooms inside because obviously retail. So
Yeah.
it was like tiniest little things. I don't even know how people got like changed it.
there.
Yeah. And then I was coming back from a gym once, right, in Lurgan, and I seen this chair and I was like,
I need this.
that's a statement. I want that chair, you know. So I went in and was like, give me that chair. It's like, all right, you know. So the guys delivered and stuff like that. I don't think the shop is no longer there anymore. Actually, it was like a home, like furniture shop. And then this was upstairs. But yeah, like that throne was actually one of the first things I bought for the shop. Yeah,
I like that throne.
it's a statement piece, you know. It was like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna make it successful. Again, Veni Vidi Vici. I was still like in the barbershop at the time, you know, whenever this was happening. But the perspective changed because then I started realizing like what was capable, what I was capable of, and like what the purpose of kind of like life was. It was like it wasn't really to be out to conquer things. It was to be out there to do everything you love. You know, do things that you love, and like not for like, oh yeah, I'm doing this because I want to be like the best. So that's where then like I started thinking different about my life and the way I do things, and I wasn't going to do it unless, you know, I loved doing it. And it actually came through one of my clients who came in and got that tattooed on her. It was like Veni Vidi AMAVI. I was like, whoa, what does that mean? And then she was like, yeah, do everything with love. And I was like, I came, I saw, I loved. And I was like, do you mind if I call my studio this? She's like, yeah, cool. You know, so that was it. That was
That's where
the
you
name.
got it from?
Yeah, and like it was like my whole life prior to that, well, ever since I was like a kid, you know, wanted to call my studio stuff and like Black Forest Tattoo and all these generic kind of names.
Yeah, like
Yeah, but AMAVI was it, you know, because it was so different.
it is.
Yeah.
It definitely stands out.
It took so long to actually get to that stage, you know. I'm glad I didn't jump on something that generic, you know. But yeah, then the work started, and that was it. The timber, the joiner coming in, getting the timber fitted. That was like a wee video. All the walls starting to be built. Now keep in mind with building control, they had to come out every step of the way to inspect it.
To make sure
Yeah.
it was on. Yeah.
And we had to break down the clothing changing area as well. So yeah, we started like ripping things apart as we were building things. Oh yeah, and because I was moved out of like my apartment, I moved in with the parents. They didn't have enough room for like my sofa, which is currently in the other room. So I put the sofa in the unit but while the work was happening, we had to bring, so like this random sofa just randomly started moving around the shop for no reason. Because I'd nowhere to put it.
It just kept being in the way. It's like, no, move over there now.
Yeah, and I also couldn't move it to like stepbrother granny either, you know. So yeah, like ripping things apart, building things, and then the guy who taught me to do crypto, we built actually a really good friendship at the time, and he helped me renovate upstairs. So he ripped out the carpet because also we can't tattoo on carpet and stuff, you know. So he thought he had like a few good business ideas, but ultimately it just wasn't worth it, you know, worth the risk. He was making a lot more in crypto. He became a crypto millionaire since then and moved to Spain. Yeah, he's mad. We still get in touch every now and then, but like, yeah, no, he's a legend, like, for trying to help out. But at the time, he was like, dude, you need to be careful here because like, I don't like the vibes these guys are giving off. They might screw you over. That was the first honest piece of advice anyone's actually said to me, and I should have listened because like everyone else was just like, nobody was like telling me, like, no, I didn't get guidance, you know. I was young, dumb and stupid, you know, unambitious, 22, 23, building my own studio like this.
Like, that is quite young to be attempting something.
I've no life experience, you know, like I don't know what joiner fully does. I don't know who I needed, you know, all these things, you know. So I was just going in blind. I was like, yeah, let's try this, try that. So
it worked.
Yeah, and then like, you know, fitting the insulation, you know, between the walls, like again, and we're just buying things, you know, for a shop that we knew we needed at the time as well to speed things up. So it's like, right, we need desks, but I'm scared that I'm going to run out of money, so I'm going to try and do things as cheaply as possible. So I'm going to get like secondhand desks, you know, screw desks. I had these are the desks.
These are the ones we're on right now.
It's like, I'm still frugal, man. Like these are the desks we had behind reception, and like we had like individual like long ones as well, not corner ones. And the individual ones are like long gone now. I think we're using firewood or something. I can't remember. And then ventilation started coming in, the doors, and then the plumber. Oh, obviously I'm like, my head's spinning, doing all these different things and what was happening, and then he's asking me about, you know, like, oh, where do you want the pipe work? I'm like, dude,
I don't know. You're the plumber.
Yeah. Do you not see the plans? I don't know what's going on, you know. But then we drilled through the wall. He drilled through the wall, and then the neighbor was like, dude, well, that's my side of property. Like, I look at that wall all the time. You shouldn't have done that without my permission. I'm like, oh. Shit, that's very valid. He doesn't want like ugly pipes
sticking out his window, and
So I was like, oh, we're gonna have to do things internally then. And he's like, yeah, that complicates things anymore. So that rate cost even more. But then I had a giant freaking hole there. Yeah.
The side of the building.
Yeah, so luckily, you know, I found that wee bit that he cut out, and we just got a bit of concrete that was lying around, and I just put it, and that was it.
Oh my god, put it back together.
Yeah, and then like lights started going out, or like it was like too expensive to like run certain lights, so like the electrician was like, you need to swap these over before it costs you a fortune, or like, oh, you need to swap this over before like this busts, because like the property was lying there for like 3 years before I took it over, right? This is everything that we started ripping out. And like everything like left over from like timber and building walls and stuff like that. So we started piling everything in the center of the the studio area downstairs. It was just crazy. And then the plumber was like, dude, your boiler is screwed.
Oh no.
It was going to cost you a fortune to run this. I would suggest getting like a second-hand one. I'd fit it. I'll source it and fit it for you. I was like, right, that's awesome. It became very sooty. You know, like it was like, dude, like it's starting to get cold. I'm running this, and suit is just building there. You know, so me and the plumber at the time clashed a lot. You know, because he was doing things I didn't like. The joiner was criticizing him as well, and I was like, I think I got a cowboy here. You know, so I was like, okay, let's try and get rid of him as soon as possible. As soon as the work finished up, that's it, dude. You're not doing any more work with me. So I got one of my clients to like do bits and pieces around the shop after he left. And we got a wee leak here and there and stuff, but we'll talk about that actually.
Oh boy.
Yeah. We started building the walls, the plasters. Wow, they were so quick. Within like a couple of days, the whole place was plastered, like all 8 walls. like 8 walls, 8 rooms, and the hallway. And then so one of the guys was like, right, get yourself silicone and just run your finger along it. I was like, okay. So I laid it on so thick, and they're like, why'd you lay it on so thick? I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done this. You know, like, okay, and then we moved all the desks upstairs then, while, all the works was happening downstairs. So I was coming in every now and then whenever I had a cancellation or a bit of like free time or whatever, I was coming in just to like do a bit of work upstairs because like I have nowhere to work, outside of like barbershop was sketchy at the time, they can't go to parents' house, several other grannies, weird, like why would I like
go there to like work?
Yeah, like I only had my like bedroom, and the bedroom was a disaster, and like the only place I had was the studio upstairs, so I was doing that while like painters and other people are like trying to speak to me. I'm like, yeah, can I please be left alone to like work? And then we got a graffiti artist in, like I love his doll work, right? Like some of his work is phenomenal, so we still have that mural in the staff room, but he done like bits of like murals around the shop, but I should have given him clear
direction
of where to go with it.
Okay.
At the time I didn't even know where to go because like it was like, oh, I want beauticians want this and that.
There was so much happening at the time.
Yeah, because I was just too ambitious. I was just trying to do everything all at once, and it was a mess, and nobody told me it was a mess. Nobody like
said at the time, just kind of let you on through it.
Exactly. Yeah, and then because the property was lying there for 3 years, the wood in the middle started to warp, right? We had no option but to lift the wood. So that left us with like loads of bits of flooring, and then spent more money on plywood to lay down. So then we had 2 different types of flooring, right? That looked ugly, especially like in wee corner and stuff like that where the reception was at the time. People were coming in, like you'll see in a bit, but it was like such a long walk. It's like, hi, over here. It's like, oh, I'm here to see Alexi for a tattoo. It's like, yeah, no problem. Have a seat on the sofa there, which is blocking all the plumbing that never got finished.
Oh no!
But yeah, the plumbing, like the casing and stuff like that, because that's where the cafe was going to go.
Yeah.
Ain't no way was I going to afford a cafe.
No.
Yeah. Because like so instead we painted it, the floor, because like it was ugly and it was plywood.
Like,
and then we lifted like the retail area where like the mannequins used to stand and stuff like that, for the previous studio owners, and we lifted that and floored that with plywood, and then obviously we needed to paint that too because that was ugly, and so that was the only solution that we had. And then all the wood went into unit, and then all the crap started to build even more in the unit, like cardboard boxes, the bags of rubbish and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Somebody somebody made like a clothing hanger thing, and I was like, oh, here you go. It's like, I don't know what to do with this, but thank you, this is cool.
Just have it.
Yeah, but that's the ventilation. Yeah, that was powerful, and like all the pipes were on foot, so it became like very rustic, which added like a cool feel. But throughout the whole journey, people were asking me questions like, where's this go? Where do you want this? Blah blah blah. How am I meant to do?
You don't know.
Yeah, but I was like, I was taking photos, like circling it on my phone. It's like,
there.
Here you go. And he's like, right, that'll do. I was like, right, okay.
Thank you.
But then I was like, it's such a waste, such a big room for just a bit of ventilation. Can we not like build something out there? So I asked like one of my clients at the time. He was like a young joiner, and he was looking a bit of work, and I was like, look, if you need a bit of work done in the shop, let me know. And I was like, sure, yeah, actually, like you could build this out, And I was like, yeah, sweet. So he started like, he closed the ventilation in for us, which is a legend. And randomly I was coming in the studio, and there's like a bit of like wire like sticking out and stuff, And then, I was just like seeing that. I was like, what? That's mad. And then that was like where the changing room was. So it was left with like random things here and there. So it's like, so it was like little problems here and there that I needed to solve. But things are starting to like finish up. So I started getting like equipment in there. That's a piercing room that we eventually, we were moving around from like a small tiny room to like the big back room that was shared with like a tattoo station and stuff. And this is our current laser room. But we didn't know at the time what the hell to do with it, so it was going to be a tattoo room for the time being. And then the current staff room that we have, that was my room, but we'll talk about that in a second. The water heaters, like that was the only way to heat in the water. I didn't find any other sort of solution that was like effective enough. And then we boxed it in because obviously that's a hazard, hot pipes and stuff. But yeah, that's the staff room, and that's where I set up like my station, and the one that we rolled up to the barbershop. Whenever I started like, officially moving in there, whenever the painters were finishing up, so it's like, sorry.
I bet you though, for like just looking at these photos here now, I bet you whenever it all started to kind of come together like this, and you started to see the rooms appearing, and I bet you that kind of probably give you a bit of a boost. Almost like finally after so long, you could start to see your vision. There was forming
light at the end of the tunnel, for sure, man, and that got me more and more sort of motivated. But at the same time, I was near breaking point with financially, and mentally and emotionally.
All of it.
But that was like another thing that was kind of keeping me going, So yeah, like the walls were like painted black, and it started to take shape and looked really, really good. And then this is Katrina. As you can see in this photo, everything was starting to slowly take shape, and the painting was starting to happen. And in this photo, you can see love of my life, Katrina, helping out. But that's a story for the next episode. There is a few more things I want to show you guys, but we're starting to drag on here. So just a few closing thoughts. This was one of the lowest points in my life, but it was also a turning point. Everything was stripped back. I planted seeds through resilience, through my vision, and everything started to become a lot more clear. In the next episode, I will show you a lot more of what sort of came after, how I tried to build a team, the development of my love life, and trying to keep the shop alive, and where I came to almost another breaking point. Thanks for sticking through this episode and listening in and tuning in. Hopefully you stick around for the next episode, and this time don't forget Veni Vidi AMAVI. Take care, guys.